Hello, everyone, and welcome to the sixth episode of the StackToHeap podcast. As always, please spread the word if you like the series and get in touch if you can be a guest on the show. I would like to speak with a lot more folks on a lot of different topics. It can even be non-tech topics that could affect developers, right? So, with that context said, let's get on to today's topic. Today, we are going to be talking about certifications and more specifically the Certified Kubernetes Administrator program in specific, right? And to do that, we have with us Prasanna, who is an architect at Francium Technologies. Prasanna recently completed the Certified Kubernetes Administrator program. To start off, congrats, Prasanna. And I saw that you got certified on LinkedIn, and I immediately wanted to talk with you because this was something that I've been seeing if I can do myself as well. And so I wanted to get some context on your experience on this and then see if I could commit myself to it as well. And hopefully, people listening to this podcast can also get some inputs from you and maybe commit themselves for this certification. Welcome, Prasanna, and can you start off by introducing yourselves?
Thanks, Manoj. So to begin with, I'm working as architect in Francium Technologies, but the designation is architect, so it's more or less like a full stack development there. Previously, I was working as a tech lead in ThoughtWorks. So mostly, my experience was around the development side, back end, front end. It was in that way. But I was more passionate towards DevOps. So that's why I thought like, okay, I can pursue CKA also to validate myself. Just to give my DevOps experience. So I started with Chef and then Ansible and slowly moved towards the containers world. And even in containers world, I started using ECS. And then slowly I migrated towards Kubernetes. So just to give my experience around Kubernetes, like I was using Kubernetes for nearly 3 years now. But mostly it's around, my experience was around the managed Kubernetes side. I've never set up a cluster. I don't know like what are the components of cluster, except I read about few things like Kube scheduler, Kube API server and those kind of things, but I have never used those things. So that was my experience. And but I have a good set of experience in writing YAML files and Helm charts. Mostly like even I haven't written the actual pod or deployment. So it was always using the Helm charts which I deployed. And the recent product which we deployed is a NLP product, and it was deployed in GKE. So that's also a managed Kubernetes cluster. So that was my area of expertise with Kubernetes. Yeah.
So you've been using Kubernetes for 3 years now, and you recently got certified as well, right? So what triggered the motivation to get certified? So and like basically, what are the main reasons that you decided, like, wait, now is the right time for me to get certified on this?
Yeah. So I didn't decide it now. I want to do certification a year before itself. The main purpose of that one is to validate my knowledge. I had some experience with Kubernetes, but I can just add it as a skill in the LinkedIn. It's not like some external person validating that I know the actual Kubernetes itself. So I thought I can do that. That is the primary motivation. It's for the personal interest. So that was the primary motivation. And recently, our company, Francium Technologies, we started moving from product-based company into a professional services company. So we were actively looking for clients, mainly in Europe and the US region. So when we analyzed the scope, we thought that Kubernetes has a lot of potential. I'm not sure about India, but compared to India, like with US and EU market, so the Kubernetes still is in much more demand in the DevOps side, the infrastructure as a code, Terraform, and all those things. So I thought it's a very good opportunity, and to get certified also, it's a very good thing. And the other main motivation is like how we have the AWS partner, like the APN partner network. Similarly, there is a partner program for Kubernetes also. It's a Kubernetes certified service provider. So the companies can opt for Kubernetes service provider, and there are few conditions over there. Like there should be at least 3 CKAs in the company, and there is a charge to be paid for becoming a partner and all those things. But that gives us a lot of scope and that gives us a lot of visibility towards the client. So we thought, okay, I can do that, and we can try to get some good projects in Kubernetes area also. So that's also another motivation. Yeah, as I said, like I thought of doing CKA certification a year before, because I read a blog post from Tarka Labs. So the CTO Vagman Mudumbai, he did a CKA a year before, and he mentioned like why he did CKA and how it compares to AWS certification or other things. When I read the blog post, I thought, okay, this is a very good thing, and the value he gives for CKA compared to other certifications. So that's also more evident there. So I thought, okay, let me give a try. So that was the motivation is. And I felt the future of Kubernetes is very good. A lot of cloud providers are started accepting Kubernetes as their container orchestrator and those kind of things. I think it's the scope is very, very good there.
So I'll post a link to the Tarka Labs blog post in the description to this episode. So once you decided that you wanted to go ahead with the certification, right? So once you're committed, so how did you go about preparing for it? And while preparing for it and while taking it, what were the biggest challenges that you had to face?
Yeah, sure, Manoj. So as I mentioned, I thought of doing CKA the last year itself, and I just gone through the basic of things. Like it was a certification provided by CMCF Foundation, Cloud Native Computing Foundation, and they are maintaining the Kubernetes along with few other popular tools, Prometheus and other things. And CMCF is also part of Linux Foundation. So Linux Foundation is conducting the certification, and I registered using Linux Foundation only. And just to give like a high level idea of like what is the CKA is. So for the Kubernetes certification, there are two main certifications available. One is CKA and the other one is CKAD. So CKA is Kubernetes Certified Kubernetes Administrator, whereas CKAD is Certified Kubernetes Application Developer. So CKAD is mostly from the developer perspective. So it does not involve anything around setting up the cluster or doing administrative tasks on the cluster. So it's only how to run the applications. So it was around that area. I thought like, okay, I have some experience with CKAD, so why not try CKA, which is like a superset of CKAD. So I decided like I'll go with CKA. And also the other main factor is the Kubernetes Certified Service Provider Program. It accepts only CKA certification. So there should be 3 CKAs in the company. It doesn't accept the CKAD program. And that's how it is. And I gone through the curriculum. So there is a GitHub repository which explains like what is the curriculum, what are the topics we should learn. So I gone through that. But to be frank, I didn't even proceed it for one week, because I was lacking of the motivation, and I'm not sure like how to proceed with that one, because the curriculum was very vague. Even though I have used Kubernetes for 3 years, the tooling part was mostly in my day-to-day activities, not the actual core of Kubernetes work. So I couldn't pursue that, and I just dropped that year before. So the main reason for those kind of things, like why I couldn't pursue that, was the exam structure was a little bit different. So I thought I can just explain about the exam as well, like what is the exam pattern and how it would be. So yeah, as per the argument, I should not mention any of the questions, like what are the questions would be asked in CKA, but I'll give a general information which will be like available in all the sites and even in the CNCF Foundation site itself. So there will be 24 questions, and all the 24 questions would be task-based questions. There is nothing like a multiple choice question. So everything like it would be, we'll be connecting to a Kubernetes cluster, and we have to perform some tasks, and we have to validate like, okay, the task performed is working properly there. So we have to do all those kind of validation, and there will be no validation at that point in itself. So that's how it is. And which means the time is, the duration is 3 hours. So in 3 hours, we have to do 24 tasks, which means approximately 7.5 minutes per task. So you have to have a very good hands-on in using the core Kubernetes to complete the certification. That is one of the criteria. And the other one is like we are not supposed to use any of the material available in internet except the Kubernetes documentation. And that too, I read like we can't use a search feature there. We can just navigate through the links and see like where if you want to get any material or some kind of those things, it should be available from the Kubernetes documentation only. So this is also one of the other criteria. So this is about the exam. So which means like it's not a regular AWS certification kind of exam where we'll be given with multiple choices and doing those things. Which means we have to practice those kind of things. And if you couldn't find an actual place to practice the exam, it will be somewhat difficult to do that. So I think that is one of the major challenges. Like we should be in the flow, and we should have the motivation to practice or some area to practice and get expertise with the Kubernetes core Kubernetes, and have the confidence primarily, so that like we can go and do the certification. So that confidence was lacking for me a year before. Yeah.
So I had a few questions here. So is it like a paid course? I have not looked into it yet. And what is the pass percentage like? Do I have to get everything like close to right? And generally for your level of experience with Kubernetes itself, how did you feel? How difficult did you feel it was?
Yeah. So the pass percentage is 74%. That is the pass percentage, and we won't be knowing like how they are evaluating the things. So I think that would be abstracted from us. But for each and every question, they'll be giving a percentage allocated to it. But as I mentioned, like even if I used Kubernetes for some time, it was mostly around the tooling part. I didn't use the actual like I think only when I started learning Kubernetes, I did kubectl run those kind of commands. After that, I use mostly K9s tool or some other tool, which will be very comfortable for me to check the logs to SSH into the machine. So it was in that way. So I felt it was I needed some kind of learning, even though I have experience with Kubernetes. I felt like that I should have a dedicated time to learn for the certification alone. So that's how I felt about it. So about the cost, it was $300. But mostly we'll be getting some discount, like 15% or 30% discount. Recently there was a 30% discount. So those discounts would be given by the Linux Foundation. Yeah. So, but the cost of certification is $300.
Per attempt, right? Is it?
There are 2 attempts actually. So if you pass in the first attempt itself, it's well and good. If not, there is one more free attempt there. So, but you should take that free attempt within 1 year. So that's the criteria.
Sounds good. I think you set a lot of context around your own motivations to take the certification and how you went about it. So there are a lot of others, including me, who are on borderline whether to take it or not, to commit to it or not. And for me personally, I've also been using Kubernetes for some time. I do know a lot of aspects of it, but I do not know a lot of different aspects around it. So what would you have as a message, especially to folks like me, and probably there are lots of others who are listening to this, maybe they didn't even think that they could attempt a certification, right? What would your main message be? How valuable is this for them? And how do you communicate to them to commit for it?
Yeah, sure, Manoj. Yeah. So I would say like if you are very serious about getting CKA, then try to sign up for some course in Udemy or somewhere. But I would recommend a course by Code Cloud. The main reason for that is this is because it's a practice-oriented exam. I think the course structure was very good. So after each and every theoretical session, there was a practical session as well, where we can see like how good we grasped concepts and all. I think it's actually the course is very cheap, so we can purchase it using Udemy, and we can take that course. And the main purpose of taking that course is like it keeps us in the flow. So when I started doing that course, I felt like okay, something which we actually doing with the cluster and seeing like how Kube API server is there and how the certificates are being used. Those kind of things was really good. So the first thing would be like to enroll for some course in Udemy and try to pursue the certification. And the second one is the Kubernetes the hard way. So it's from Kelsey Hightower. I think it's very popular at GitHub repository. So in that he would have explained like how to set up the Kubernetes from scratch. So from downloading the individual binaries and setting up the certificates and everything, like how TLS bootstrapping works. So that was like, I think 13 or 14 sections are there. That was also a very good one. So once I took this Udemy course, I gone for that Kubernetes the hard way. I tried to do that. It was much more interesting. Then I think these are the two primary resources which I used. I think it's because of these two resources I could able to get the confidence in attending the exam itself. And the other one is practicing using Katacoda. So even this Udemy course, it was a wrapper around that Katacoda, and I try to set up clusters in the using the Katacoda environment and see how it was, and I try to do those things. This Udemy course, it comes with a Slack channel. So I thought I can be more active in Slack channel for 10 days or 2 weeks to see like if I can answer the questions or what are the difficulties faced by other people. So I try to be active there, try to answer a few questions, try to read about the concepts there. So that's how I try to engage myself in pursuing the certification. I think it took me 3 weeks or more or less like 3 weeks to get the confidence. So that I thought like, okay, there is one more attempt. At least I'll give a attempt there in doing the certification. Even if I fail, I thought like, okay, I can take a attempt one more time. So I think this kind of preparation will help. Actually, like it helped for me. But I think like it's a general approach followed also. That's what I read about CKA. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Prasanna. I think you've given a lot of good details around the whole certification process of it. And I also saw that you are also a certified AWS solutions architect. Congrats on that too. I'm sure definitely you have inspired me to at least commit to it, see if I can start either one of these, because yeah, I've been working with AWS and Kubernetes as well, but never really thought about going into certifications. But even working with a product company to validate my own learnings, to validate that I do know what I've been doing so far, even probably within an organization, and also for services or consulting company, I think it makes a lot more sense as well. And thanks a lot for sharing all the detail. These are all the questions that I had. Any closing comments from you?
No, Manoj, I think it was very good. So I was also thinking of a place where I can share this information. Yeah, thanks for keeping the session and keeping the good work. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Prasanna. See you.
Thank you. See you.